Sicha Parshas Lecha. Today's Sicha is dedicated Le'ilu Nishmas Harav Hatamim Meir Chaim ben Baruch ben Zion Shlita, the late husband of Rivky Brickman, the son-in-law of Mrs. Morozov, classmates. We're also dedicating our class to the Refuah Shlema of Chana Reza Bas Rechel and Harav Levi Halevi ben Leah. They should have a Refuah Shlema and a Bichas Yamim v'Shanim Teves. We are also delighted to wish Mazel Tov to our classmate Goldie Baumgarten on her daughter's wedding yesterday, and to our classmate Chaya Eger on the occasion of her sister Esther Wieder's engagement to Yechiel Herzog. May they build a Bayis Nemam B'Yisrael. We're delighted to wish Mazel Tov to Aliza Hachstad upon the 60th birthday of her daughter Rina. And I think those are the Mazel Tovs. I hope I didn't leave anything out. So we should only be able to share simchas with happy hearts. Today's sicha is, on the one hand, going to be very easy and smooth and intuitive and comfortable. And it's exactly the kind of sicha that we might have been drawn to before we started the project and understood that we're going to do all kinds of sichas on Rambam, sichas on Mishnayos, sichas on Gemara, not to mention Rashi, of course, etc., etc. But we should not be lulled, we should not be taken in by the familiarity of this concept, which we are so privileged to be able to take for granted. And we should understand that the sicha that we're going to do is one of the most yisaidistic sichas. It forms the basis and it encapsulates almost everything about the Rebbe's Chassidus. In fact, the celebrated Chayzer of the Rebbe and the expositor of Chassidus of our generation, Rabbi Yoel Khan, wrote an entire book based on this sicha called Mehusan Shel Yisrael, the essence of a Jew. So it's really quite wonderful what we're about to embark on. And again, we should not be kind of taken in by what seems to be the like, oh yeah, of course, Avs, we know this, because this is really big stuff. It's also important to understand, to frame this properly, and to understand that when the Rebbe introduced Miftzaim, the 10-point mitzvah campaigns, which today, we take for granted, it's ubiquitous. Most Jews have had some experience with somebody from Chabad Lubavitch asking them if they'd like to do this or like to do that. But this was a very, very radical and innovative thing that the Rebbe did. And this sicha provides the framework and the basis for that entire new modality of Mitzrayim. You could say that Chassidus always spoke about two ways of imparting or influencing. One you could call hashpa'ah, where you set about in conscious effort, in a conscious manner, to influence somebody, to teach somebody, to impart information. And then the second model was always dugma chaya. You don't say anything. You just are who you are, and in that way people learn things. And that's something that Chassidus speaks about at great length. But then the Rebbe came and innovated a third way, where you circumvent all the normal channels and you go straight for the jugular. You go straight for the atzmos. You go straight for the essence of a yid, and you basically say to them, you're a yid, and I'm going to jumpstart that by giving you the chance to put on tefillin, put a mezuzah on your door, and so on and so forth. So with that said, let's jump right into it. Lech Lecha, Aleph. Al kach sha'ascholas parshaseinu hu b'dibor Hashem lavram lech lecha me'artzecha me'ladetecha v'goymer ve'escha legoy gadol goymer. Regarding the beginning of this week's parsha, where Hashem says to Avram, go to yourself, go forth from your land, go forth from the place of your origin, and I will make you into a great nation. Amad harambam v'zel shonei. So the Ramban asks a question, and this is his terminology. Zois haparsha loy biara kol ha'inyan. There's something here that needs to be understood. It's just not clear. Ki ma tam sheyomer le'kadosh baruch hu azoiv artzecha ve'tiva imcha toiva shelo heisa kamayu ba'olam mibli sheyakdim shahaya Avram oived Elokim mitzadik tam chulei. How is this even like a thing? How does this make sense? That Hashem tells Avram, leave everything, and I'm going to make you very great, and I'm going to bestow upon you such goodness that has never been before. But Hashem begins with this before prefacing with introducing Avram as a paragon of virtue, as a great person who serves Hashem, he's righteous, he's complete, and so on and so forth. Uminaga kasav lemar. And in fact, this is a departure from how the Torah usually does things, because normally you find in the Psukim that it says something about the person, like Hisalech lefanai, he went before me, or V'tishma b'koili v'eitiva imcha, or if you listen to my voice, I will make it good for you. Kasher b'David u'b'Shlomo, like Hashem does with David and with Shlomo Melech, u'ki'inin ha'Torah kula. And then in more global fashion, like what the Torah does with all of Bnei Yisrael, im b'chukaisei telechu, if you will go in the ways of my statutes, im shamaya tishma b'kol Hashem Elokecha, if you're going to listen to the voice of Hashem your God, then Hashem unfurls all kinds of blessings and rewards. Ubi Yitzchak Amar, and for instance about Yitzchak it says, Bavor Avram Avdi, because you're going to have all this greatness because of your father Avram, my servant. But to tell Avram, leave. And because you leave, you're going to have so much greatness, and there's no framing Avram Avinu as who he is, etc. What's going on here? Ubiratam. And the Ramban answers his question, and he explains, because the people of Or Kasdim inflicted all kinds of terrible things upon him because he dared to believe in Hashem, because he trailblazed monotheism. And he ran from them to go towards Canaan. And he got waylaid in Haran. Amar Lois, Hashem tells him now, Lazoiv Gam Elu, to leave also this demographic, leave the people in Haran. And do what your original plan was to go to Canaan. That he should do his work of calling people to Hashem in the chosen land. Visham Yigdal Shmoi B'Yizbarchu Boi Hagoyim Hahim. And there his name will become great, and all the nations there will be blessed with him. And they're not going to treat him there like the people of Or Kasdim treated it. They used to embarrass him. They used to curse him. They put him into a pit, or in a fiery furnace. And then the Ramban concludes, and he says, and the reason why the Torah doesn't give us Avram's history and how successful he was and how brilliant he was in finding monotheism on his own and bringing other people to explain, to understand this, and how much self-sacrifice he had, etc., etc. The Ramban says because the Torah does not want to engage with these people and what they had done, and to go into detail about and to go into the whole basically conflict that there was between him and those people regarding his belief in Hashem. Kasher katzor be'inyan dor enish v'savartem b'avodas gelum shechachu. And this is the same thing that the Torah doesn't go into a lot of detail about the Dar Enosh and Avodah Zarah that they innovated and so on and so forth. However, Adayan ena mechaver, but this is not smooth. This is not completely computing. Lama leiniska b'Torah b'kitzur al kapanim shahaya Avram oived elkim oy tzadik tamim. Okay. So we understand what the Ramban is saying, that the Torah doesn't want to kind of engage in any lengthy fashion with the negativity. But this doesn't explain why the Torah doesn't, in very, very succinct form, at least tell us that Avram Avinu served Hashem, that he was a righteous person, that he was whole with God. K'hagdama el hatzivoy, to kind of act as a preface and as a framework for the commandment, Vayomer Hashem al Avram, that Hashem says to Avram, Lech Lecha, etc., etc. Val derech masha matzinu b'Noach. And the Rebbe says, look what we found with Noach. Shekoidem dibar Hashem leNoach, b'tchilas parshas Noach. Before Hashem gives Noach the commandment to build a teva, etc., hikdim akasav tchila b'reisha parsha. First, the parsha begins with saying Noach ish tzaddik. It gives us some data points about who we're talking about. It introduces him. And even before that, at the end of Parshas Bereshis, the Torah tells us that Noach found favor in the eyes of Hashem. So later, when Hashem commands him to do the project of the Teva, we can understand that. But here, it's like there's no framework, there's no introduction, and all of a sudden we get this commandment, and then Hashem says that it's going to be good for you, like nobody's business. And if this was true about Noach, that the Torah gave us some heads up that Noach is a special person, how much more so regarding Avram? Asher b'midrashi Chazal mesupar ba'arucha oides goydel ma'alosai v'tzidkosai v'avodasai es Hashem b'mesiras nefesh. The Medrash is full and so detailed about his greatness, his righteousness, the way that he served Hashem with self-sacrifice. B'yosef or Kazdin or Becharan, when he was in Or Kazdin, when he was in Charan. And this would seem to be the reason and the preface for Hashem saying, go forth. Ve'im kol zeh, and notwithstanding all of this, lo niskar hadavar b'Torah shebechtav klal. We don't have anything about all these stories that we learned in school or that we teach our children or that we teach our friends. All the stories that children that start in a Torah observant preschool are learning about the greatness of Avram. None of this is in the Torah Shebechtav. It doesn't even mention that Avram was actually distinctive and different from his own family. If anything, at the end of Parshas Noach, it mentions Terach, other son, it mentions Avram. He's mentioned as one of the family, completely not mentioning how Avram Avinu actually suffered because he rebelled against his father, because he was so different, and so on and so forth. Okay, so why is there no preface? Why is there no framing? Why is there no introduction? Why is this the first we hear about Avram Avinu, period? Base. The Rebbe says we might say that the explanation is as follows. Hatcholos Am Yisrael hi ba'Avram Avinu, Shahaya HaYehudi Harishon. The beginning of the nation of Israel begins with Avram. He was the first Jew. And about him it says, Echad Haya Avraham. These are words from the Navi Yecheskel. Avram was one, alone, distinctive. Ubavram Gufa, Yehudai v'Avdalasai Mishar b'nei Adam sheba'artzai v'maladatay v'afilu m'beis aviv hischilu min hatzivoy v'yomer Hashem el Avram Lech Lecha mikol ela hanemar betchilas parshasenu. So the Rebbe is saying that the whole nation of Israel begins with Avram. And Avram's distinctiveness and the way in which he is separate and apart from all people in his country of origin, all people in his family, even in his father's house, it all begins with Hashem saying to him, go forth from all of this. Leave behind your nature, leave behind your nurture, leave behind what you have amassed through your own cognition. ובכך שהזכר סיפור התורה את הייחוד של אברהם אבינו היא בציווה ויאמר השם אל אברהם גוימר. And with this, that the beginning of what the Torah tells us about Avraham Avinu is the commandment of Hashem to go forth. We're going to go back to the parentheses in a minute. Skip the parentheses. Hidgisha ha-Torah es mehusai shel Avram shel Yisrael shel kol Yehudi. With this, the Torah underscores the essence and the true character of Avram, of Jews, of every Jew. Let's go back to the parentheses. And this is true, although Shezman Rav Koidim Lachain, that for a long time before this junction, Kvar Hikir Avram as Baire. Avram had already recognized his creator. V'niskari v'elakadosh baruch hu, and he came close to Hashem. Ufir seim l'chala olam sheyesham eloka echad l'chala olam v'loi roi la'avad. And he didn't keep this for himself. He launched the world's most successful PR campaign, and he broadcasted to the entire world that there is only one God. There's only one force that is proper to serve. And for this, he actually was ready to give his life. He was thrown into a fiery furnace. And here, the Rebbe says, Kol shar ha'umais, all of the other nations of the world, kiruvam v'shaychusam el bayre ha'olam, tuluyim b'di asam v'hakarasam b'bayre. For all the other nations, they're coming close to the creator of the universe. Their relationship with the creator of the universe is dependent on their knowledge. It's dependent on their recognition of God. Asher al yidei zeh he miskashim el kadosh baruch hu u'mekayimim mitzvaysev. And through this, they attach themselves to Hashem and they keep His commandments. Mashe ein kein am Yisrael. But with Bnei Yisrael, it's completely different. In contradistinction to all other nations, Iker kiruvam lelikus u'mitziusam ki Yehudim. The main way of coming close to Hashem, and actually the axiomatic existence as a Jew, it's not through the fact that of their own volition, they raise themselves until they reach a recognition of the creator of the universe and they attach to him. That's not the way in which we are connected to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Ela b'kach sheHaKadosh Baruch Hu yichdam v'hivdilam. But rather, the distinction of Klal Yisrael is that Hashem separated them and made them distinguished from all other people, Ub'lashon Chazal, and in the words of our sages that are found in the Haggadah Shel Pesach, Va'achshav, and now, Kervanu hamakam lavadasai. Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, and now He brought us close to His work. Kervanu hamakam loy. Hashem brought us close to Him. V'hivdilanu me'umas v'kervanu liyechudai. And these are words from the Rambam. He says, Hashem brought us close to Him. He separated us from all the other nations, and He brought us close to His distinctiveness. And this is a good place for us to stop. We don't ever do this. We don't usually do this. But we have a very, very important announcement about something that is very much in line with what we're talking about, that there are things that transcend the norm. I'm going to let Joni talk about one such thing.
You gave me a perfect opening when in the first few words of the Sikha, when you said the Rebbe, I mean, talks to the essence of who we are as Jews through Mifzoyim, but how much more so through women. So last year, there was an amazing, the first time that Project Lakita Sichas we did a Shabbaton at the Oil last year. Nobody knew. It was the first time we did it. Everybody went in blind, and whoever was there knew and felt and understood that it was something just remarkable. There's not very many places that women can get together at a Shabbaton. There just isn't. And so this year we're doing it again. It'll be the second one. It's not going to be at the aisle because, God willing, we're going to have more people. It's going to be in a place called Sleepy Hollow Inn, which is in Tarrytown. If I'm just going to tell you 10 seconds about me, that clearly I didn't grow up like in a Lubavitch house, but it doesn't make a difference. And that's the whole point of this Shabbaton. So when I follow the Sikha that we're learning this morning, I'm not able to translate. I can follow the Hebrew. It doesn't make a difference. This Shabbaton is for everyone, for shluchos, for balbatim, for people, for women who just want to, they just need to connect with other women. It's like, I don't want to use cliches. I'm not like a drama queen, cliche, soul to soul, but truly, truly, when women get together, it's just different. It's just amazing. And this year, no one's going to have to worry about food and, cleaning and serving and nothing like that. You're going to go like a queen to this Shabbaton, and that's it. And just come with no expectations, and you're going to be, hopefully, God willing, uplifted, body, soul, spirit, the whole thing. So I guess Tip is going to put the link, I guess, on the WhatsApp group. We need to get 30 rooms. We need to pay for 30 rooms before we can actually make this happen. And we have to do it quickly, like in the next 2-3 weeks. So if you want to come with your daughter, you want to come with a friend, you want to come by yourself, it doesn't make a difference. But think about it for 24 hours. And then if you can, just go on the link and join. You're not going to be, even if you're going in blind, you never went, you don't know what you're getting into, you will not be disappointed. That's all I can tell you. Everyone came away with something. Everyone remembers last year, Rivky Brickman came after Shabbos. She spoke from her heart and soul. And Hashem had other plans for her. That's it. Yesterday she buried her husband. But nobody it will ever forget those 15 minutes that she spoke. That it just was, I can't even, it's almost indescribable. And so I'm just encouraging everyone that we should be able to fill more than the 30 rooms. That's basically the bottom line. And that's it. If you have questions, you can call me, you can call Rivky, you can call Tzippa, Holly Cohen, Nechami, what's her last name? I forget.
Silverberg.
Silverberg. Anyone, you can call us, you can ask questions, whatever you want to know. It's just something that you shouldn't miss. It's January 9th and 10th, which is Tavis 20th and 21st, which happens to be my 55th wedding anniversary, which I just realized. But yeah, so that's it. That's my spiel. I don't want to take up too much time for the class, but something not to be missed.
Thank you, Joni. I just want to underscore that it's the nature to kind of kick the can down the road and to say whatever between now and January, there's so many things that could happen. I'll do it later. But as Joni said, in order for us to book our own dining room and our own shul and our spaces to gather, etc., we actually have to put down a deposit. So we have to know that we have a certain amount of people coming, which we know we will have more than that certain amount, but we need it ASAP to hold that space. And we're super duper excited about this Shabbaton. Okay, so we're going back into the Sikha now. And the last thing that the Rebbe says is that the Torah, through this, is underscoring the true essence of a Jew and what it means to be a Jew. That it's not dependent on our understanding, our choices, but rather that Hashem chose us. And because this choice comes from the Creator, move on, Shabnei Yisrael, Einam Rak Sug Noisav B'Teich Habriya. The truth of the matter is that almost every line of the Sikha has to be unpacked. There's so much that the Rebbe is saying. That's why Rabbi Yoel wrote a 70-page book on this. The Rebbe is saying here that because the creator of the universe chose a Jew, so it's understood that a Jew is not just one of the aspects of creation. It's true. A Jew appears to be like all the other aspects of creation, and we know that there's a hierarchy. There's daimim, there's the inanimate, there's samer, there's the vegetative, there's chai, there's animal life, and then there's the medaber, the one who speaks. And the Rebbe says, but then there's the Jew. It's a different sug. And the Jew looks like other people and bleeds like other people and cries like other people, but is a different thing. Asher nasa karoi vel kadosh baruch hu yosim mishar b'nei adam. So the Jew is not just another rung in the ladder, another aspect of the hierarchy, but closer to God than the rest of people. Ella he mehus acheres legamri. But a Jew is a different kind of thing, a completely different type of existence. Why? Kikol hanivraim hayu v'noisru mitzios nivra. Masha inkin Yisrael heim bimhusam inyan shel elokus b'teich habriya. Because every other aspect of creation are an expression of or a result of the existence of a creator. Whereas the Jews are elokus within creation. They're not generated by elokus. They are elokus. They are godliness. It's not just that the soul of a Jew is a veritable aspect of God, literally, as it is down here in this world below. But it's not just the soul, it's the body about which Hashem says, I chose you from all the nations. A Jew is God walking around on this earth. And in like fashion, you can discern the difference between the mitzvahs for the Noachites and the mitzvahs given to Jews. We're not just talking about a quantitative difference. There are 7 Noahide laws, and there are 613 mitzvahs for Jews. But the difference is qualitative. The difference is essential. Mitzvahs b'nei noyach teichnan hu be'ikar yishuv ha'olam. The driving reason for the mitzvahs b'nei noyach is to be able to create civilization. That people should be able to live together in a cohesive way. Zichucha Adam, to refine the person. Basically, that a person should evolve in the right direction and that civilization should unfurl in a proper way. And how are people refined? And how does the world come to fruition as a civilization? Through these mitzvahs that Hashem gave the Bnei Noach. Umitam zeh, mitzvahs Bnei Noach im inyanim she'efshar l'kaimam afilu mitzad hechra hadas. And that's why if you look at the Noahide laws, you see that those would have been able to be something that people could come to on their own because they're all compelled by logic. Masha ein kein ha-mitzvah shel Yisrael. In contradistinction, the mitzvahs that Hashem gave Bnei Yisrael, inyanan hu loy rak zichach ha'adam va'olam kim gam ubeikar tzafsa v'chipor. The main function and purpose of the mitzvahs that Hashem gave to Bnei Yisrael are not just to refine the person, although that is something that happens, and it's not just to make sure that the world doesn't go off its rails, but it is mainly about connecting and forging a bond im habayre with our Creator. Vizuhi mehusa shel mitzvah. And here you have it. This is the essence of a mitzvah. And once you understand that the whole point here is about connecting with the Creator, and that the relationship between the created and the Creator is, you can't compare it at all. It's be'ein arech legamre. It's like there should be no way in which finitude can connect with infinity. Move on, so it's understood. Shekashem shemetzias hanivra ena tafeses mokim legabe abayre, kach gam avidase ena tafeses mokim legaba. Just like a finite, fleeting, ephemeral, here today, gone tomorrow person doesn't take up anything, space, before the infinite, omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient Creator, the eternal Creator, right? It's like, what are you talking about? The same thing with our avodah. No matter what we do, of what efficacy would it be to the eternal God? V'haderach hamevia l'tzavta beinehem. So the only way in which a bond can be forged, a connection can be made, it's not going to be through the refinement and the evolution of the person who comes through cognition to recognize godliness. And it's not going to happen emotionally, and it's not going to happen through a more sophisticated avodah. No matter how beautiful and wonderful and sophisticated it is, Ella, Hashem v'kiyumei. The only way this bond can be forged, the only way you can talk about any connection between a person and Hashem, is only through Hashem choosing us and commanding us. And in that fashion, there is the ability to do something that should not be possible at all. And this, the Torah hastens to underscore immediately about the first Jew, Avram Avinu, sheyechudai ki Yehudi, u'ma'alasai, that his distinction as a Jew and his advantage einon matchilos b'Torah ma'aseh avos b'ma'alosav haniflois. It doesn't begin, at least not in the Torah, with what he accomplished and his great characteristics. Biskar vusai lelikus alidei avodasai ubikoyach atzmai. The Torah doesn't begin with telling us how he came close to Hashem and all the great works that he did through his own initiative. And all of this existed for a few decades before Hashem said Lech Lecha. Ella, but rather, what does the Torah begin with? Be'inyan vayomer Hashem. It begins with Hashem told him. Vayomer Hashem al Avram Lech Lecha v'gomer b'zeh shakadosh baruch hu hivdilai. What the Torah is underscoring is that the distinction of Jews comes from the fact that Hashem chose them, that Hashem gave them a commandment, Shaychusay v'dveikusay el Kadosh Baruch Hu haniskaris b'Torah nischachu al yidei zeh shenitztava me'es Hashem v'kiyem es hatzivoy. What distinguishes Avraham Avinu? What is his relationship? What is the way in which he is connected and cleaves onto Hashem? This begins with Hashem's commandment to him and the way in which he hearkened onto that command, not with any of his great self-propelled contributions. Gimel. Torah hi miloshen hayra. It's all about giving us a lesson, teaching us. Ubazeh nichlalim kol inyanei haTorah. And this includes everything in Torah. Kol inyan b'Torah nagei loy hayra b'limud v'yedias ha'adam b'vad. And we have to understand that every inyan in Torah doesn't exist merely as an intellectual study, mental gymnastics. Elohu hayra l'chol Yisrael l'chol Yehudi b'chol adayres b'hanaga b'poyel mamash. But rather, it is an instruction for every Jew, in every generation, in the way we practically live our lives. Ubefrat b'negei la'avos, and this is especially true with anything having to do with the patriarchs, me'ach shamaisa avos simul banim, because we have this very, very famous idea that everything that happened to our patriarchs, to our avos, is a sign of what will happen to us, is a lesson for what we need to do. And like the Ramban explains Barucha in elongated fashion, Shahatam Shehericha Hatayr Besipor Hamasois Chole V'Shara Mikrim Shala Avos, that the reason why the Torah spends so much time, spills so much ink, telling us about the travels of the patriarchs and the matriarchs and all the things that happen in their lives, Hu Kedei Lilmoid Mikach V'Leida Keitzat Tzricha Liyos Hanhagav Banim. It's so that the children should learn lessons for their own lives and know what their life is supposed to look like. So if this is generally the case, the Rebbe says that this is very clearly understood from what we are looking at now. The fact that the Torah begins the whole discussion about Avraham Avinu through Lech Lecha is teaching us that the way in which Avram became one with Hashem, connected himself with Hashem, was through this commandment of Lech Lecha, irrespective of everything that he had done before. And this is taught to us Rak l'shem yedia oides mehusay shel Yehudi ve'inyan hamitzvos b'Yisrael. It's to teach us. We should know mehusan shel Yisrael. What is the mehus? What is the true essence and existence of a Jew? And what does it mean, mitzvahs? And it's not just this Elazui hara b'poel b'yisoid v'aschalas kiruvi shel Yehudi el Kadosh Baruch Hu. And it's not just for us to know this in some abstruse, intellectual, theological, philosophical way, but it's a lesson practically for how do you bring a Jew closer to Hashem. Dalet. You could possibly think, you might think, that in order for a Jew to begin to observe mitzvahs and to come close to God, first of all, they need to take classes. They need to learn about Judaism. They need to learn Jewish law. They need to learn about the mitzvahs, and especially to learn about God. About the relationship of Hashem to the world in general, and specifically about the relationship of Jews to Hashem. Leida as teichena initial mitzvahs bechlal v'shel kol mitzvah pratis. You have to teach them generally about the system called mitzvahs, and specifically about each mitzvah. Koloimar, this is to say, Adam alo lahalois b'daitai. A person might think shekahagdama l'kiyum mitzvahs yesh tzorech b'hachshara nechina b'yedias inyanim liboriyam v'chulei. that in order to keep mitzvahs, there has to be the proper preparation. What's the proper preparation for keeping mitzvahs? To know about mitzvahs and to understand them in comprehensive fashion. And only after that, and only then could you do mitzvahs properly. And this is the only way that is proper and fitting to observe the mitzvahs of Hashem. And therefore, Av kasher hu pegish bihudi she'adat aloyis l'sheiches l'nyani yados. So this is how you think should be the order of how you bring a Jew close to Hashem. So when you meet a Jew that until this point was not connected to Judaism, and it's not just that they're not observant, they simply lack knowledge about Judaism. And the only thing that this person knows is that they're Jewish. So a person might think that first you have to prepare this person for Judaism. And you have to start this program of introduction to Judaism, and you have to teach them. And at some point, at the end, you will bring them to, after some time, to knowing about Hashem and Torah and mitzvahs, until through this course of study, this person will be aroused, they'll get a feeling in their soul to keep Torah and mitzvahs. And only then will he keep Torah and mitzvahs in the proper way. And the Rebbe says, Hein emes, shegam koidem havana asur lihimana mikiyum hatzivui b'poyel. V'tzricha liyes hakdama nasa l'nishma. Now, this person might think to themselves, yeah, it's true that you're not allowed to prevent somebody from doing a mitzvah because they lack proper understanding. The person understands that there's this idea of nasa v'nishma, that all the Jews said they would do before they properly understand. And so, okay, he's going to try that this other person should do mitzvahs. But still in all, hergesh beliboy, even this person that understands cognitively that, yeah, there's this idea of nasa v'nishma, and you're not allowed to prevent a Jew from doing a mitzvah just because they don't have a tremendous amount of background. But still, in his heart of hearts, he feels, shasaf kol soif, ein zeh ofen hamiti shel kiyum mitzvahs. Even as he's allowing this Jew to do a mitzvah, but in his heart of hearts, he's like, he doesn't really understand what he's doing. This is not really a mitzvah. This is like ish, but not actual. Ein zeis elosh me'achar shedayin ein hola mesugal havana v'asaga asur l'shtaves ada sheyagia l'dei kach. Aval ikar kiyam hamitzvahs yeh la'achri yedi v'akar kanal. This is kind of like a concession. I'm going to let him do a mitzvah, but really, wink nod, it's not the real thing. It's not the real McCoy. Only after he has a tremendous amount more of learning and background and understanding, then that's going to be the Iker Kiyam HaMitzvahs. So the Rebbe pushes back at this vociferously. Now, it's hard for us to understand just how radical this was, because this is like a fact of life now. That obviously, when a Yid does a mitzvah, it doesn't matter what they know, what they don't know. This is what the Eibishter wants. And their mitzvah is as precious as anybody else's mitzvah, as Moshe Rabbeinu's mitzvah, as a Rebbe's mitzvah. Like Mendel Futterfas said, I Jew, you Jew. I tefillin, you tefillin. This is like in our mother's milk.
I want to just I want to make a comment, Rivky.
Sure, please.
I always felt like this is one of the main differences, say, between the approach that Eish HaTorah or Sameach used to have.
Of
You know,
course.
where it was all about seminars and it was about intellectual proving that God exists, proving that the Torah is, whereas the Rebbe's approach was always Ma'aseh b'poel, get a Jew to do a mitzvah.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we're seeing the basis, how, the exactly. So hine al kach ba ha'ira b'parsha seinu. So the ha'ira from our parsha comes and says, from Avram Avinu, Vayomer Hashem al Avram, Lech Lecha Gomer. Hashem says to Avram, go. Adayin ein yediyos ma'alasev shel Avram. If you didn't read the Medrash, if you didn't read Rashi, if you didn't know what your Mora Chaya told you when you were 2 years old in daycare center, all you would know about Avram Avinu is that Hashem said, go. We don't know anything else about him. V'yesoid b'haschalas kiruvehu v'yomer Hashem el Avram lech lecha. The foundation and the beginning of his coming close to Hashem is Hashem saying to him, go forth. La'asais ulekayim b'poyel asivu Hashem. To observe, to do, in practical manner, God's command. And not only is this chronologically the first thing that the Torah presents to us, but this is the main thing in serving Hashem. Because how else can a Jew become one and connect themselves with God? Only al yidei ha'maaseh, al yidei zeh shehu nishma letzibur habayre. In other words, it's not just the first thing that the Torah tells us about Avram Avinu, it's the main thing. Kiloimar, this is to say, Yesoid ha'avoda shel Yehudi, what is the foundation of a Jew's service of God? Hu emuna v'kabolas ol pshuta. It is faith and it is accepting the yoke of heaven, simply speaking. Litzayes ve'lasayes bepoel es tzivui Hashem. To present yourself, to draft in Hashem's army, basically, and to do practically what Hashem wants. Hey, ukeshem shekachu b'vnei Yisrael b'chlal, kein adavar b'negei l'chol Yehudi b'avodasei hapratis. And just as this is true for all Jews in the most general sense, this is true in each Jew's personal avodah of Hashem. Kasher liyehudi shomer Torah mitzvos yeshna yediyah benigla de Torah b'pnimis haTorah v'yesh lehakara b'vayar olam ad la'ava v'yira. When you're talking about a Jew who observes the Torah mitzvahs, and they have knowledge both in the exoteric and the esoteric aspects of Torah, the nigla, the pnimius, and they recognize the creator of the world, until they actually love Hashem and they have awe and fear of Hashem. Hine b'shah she'omed hu l'kayim es mitzvos Hashem, olav leida asher reishis ha'avoda ve'ikra ve'sharsha hu lahargish hu lahakir b'kach shehoylech hu l'kayim es tzivui Hashem. So this Jew, who has all kinds of background and all kinds of knowledge and has a very robust spiritual landscape, but the Rebbe says that when they get ready to observe Hashem's mitzvah, they have to know that the beginning of the Avodah, that the root and the source of everything in serving Hashem is to feel and to recognize that you're going to observe Hashem's commandment. Ubenusach birchas kol ha-mitzvahs. And as we say, before we do a mitzvah, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvahsa vitzivanu. He sanctified us, he consecrated us through his commandments, and he commanded us whatever it is. Uba'efin kazeh, she'ilu nitzdav v'lachtav eitzim. And like the Alter Rebbe famously said, if the Eibusher would have told us to chop wood, in other words, it's not about what the Eibusher told us to do. This resonates with me. Or like the students like to say, this makes sense. I'm over myself already, but this used to agitate me to no end. Oh, I'm glad it makes sense to your 18-year-old hardly developed frontal cortex. But anyway, so it's not about what it is. It's about that the Eibishter commanded you. And if it would have been to chop wood, then it would have been to chop wood. You would do it with the same level of mesiras nefesh. Achein hu makir or margish sheshaychusay el HaKadosh Baruch Hu ata hi al yidei asiyas mitzvah b'poyel. It doesn't matter if you're the greatest scholar. It doesn't matter what your background is. It is not seminal to the main bond that you have with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, which is that you are doing a mitzvah, literally and practically. Kol shar heiluyim v'hapratim b'avedasam ella einam ella bigdari hanivra. All the other great things that you do, all the other details of your spiritual service, they're all within the parameters of what a created being can do. They're all still limited. And it is only and specifically through doing the mitzvah Hashem, Nasa ish Yisrael nichlal ba'or Hashem or Etzayne umiyuchad bay biyichud gamar. It's only through doing a mitzvah that a Jewish person becomes incorporated into the light of Hashem, into Hashem's desire, and becomes distinctive with the complete distinctiveness that is Hashem. In other words, as long as it's based on what you understand and what you want and what you recognize and what resonates and what's aligned with you, blah, 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 you are stuck in yourself. And it's only by transcending that you're actually able to connect. Vav. Al pizeh yumtag ma she'inyan zeh. שהחיבור האמיתי של יהודי עם הקדוש ברוך הוא נפעל מצד ציווי השם, ועל ידי זה שיהודי מקיים את הציווי, נאמר בציווי הקדוש ברוך הוא לך לך מארצך וממולדתך ומבית אביך. And now that we understand what the Rebbe has taught us, now it is sweetened. It becomes, we can more deeply understand how this is inflected in the specific words that Hashem said to Avraham Avinu. Now that we understand the enormity of this, this is a seismic shift. When Hashem says Lech Lecha, everything that Avraham did before it's nice, it's cute, as they say today, but it's not what it's about. Because this is really the essence of what Hashem said, go forth from your land, from the place you were born, from your father's house. As has been explained in a number of places in Chassidus. Lech lecha me'artzecha, go forth from your land. Eretz, the Medrash tells us, is called Eretz because it ran to do the Ratzon of Hashem. So Artzecha is correlated mit haratzonei shelcha. It's with your desires. You could say with your nature, with your predispositions, with what you're inclined to do. Yeah, we'll get to footnotes. We'll do the Sikha, and then Mitzvah Hashem will go back to footnote 50. So first of all, Hashem says to Avraham Avinu, and Hashem is saying to every single Jew, that first of all, we have to go from what we want or how we're wired or what we're predisposed to do. And from your place of origin, the Rebbe says from what you're used to, what your habits are, what your midas are, or maybe we could say also how you were raised, your nurture. And you have to also leave behind that which you've amassed through your cognition. And even if, and when we're talking about a Jew who is in a proper spiritual state. So all of their desires and all of their energies and all of their thoughts are all invested in holiness, in godliness. Like Avram Avinu, he's a paragon of this. He was great. All of this greatness notwithstanding, he dafka ritzonos midos meichin gam shemitzad kedusha. Notwithstanding Avram Avinu's greatness, or how well a person might be aligned with God and the different aspects of their inner landscape, but the only way to actually become one with Hashem is to leave the rubric of yourself, all the great holy parts thereof. And what's the goal? Where are you going? Lech Lecha, it's to haaretz asher areka. Where are you going? Lemales is harotzain, eretz miloshen rotzain, shemare umeire hakadosh baruch hu. It's to follow Hashem to the land, to his desires, to what he is showing us he wants us to do. And now we can circle back and we can try to reconcile the question of the Ramban, where he asks, just for leaving, Hashem promises Avram Avinu so many great things. We don't see Avram Avinu being introduced as a great person. We get this command, and Hashem says, and you're going to have such greatness heaped upon you. The Rebbe says, Ki kiyum zeh hu inyanon ha'amiti shel hamitzvos. Because in fact, this was the tipping point. This was a seismic shift. Avram Avinu, listening to Hashem's instruction, Lech Lecha, is the true essence of mitzvahs. Etzem kiyum tzivei Hashem hu atachlis, v'hu asher maybe yishlemus haschar. The essential thing of listening to God's commandment is the goal, and that's what brings with it such great reward. And once we understand that the completeness of a mitzvah is about becoming one with Hashem, about becoming connected. And how do we do this? By observing the mitzvah because it is God's command. And not because it makes sense to us, and not because we feel aligned and it resonates, etc. And therefore, Avram Avinu is promised commensurate reward that is totally outside of the rubrics of what would normally happen. Because again, the whole idea of Lech Lecha is leave yourself, leave your box. And then Hashem says, you're going to tap into something that's completely outside of the norm, of what that transcends. Zayin. And the Rebbe says we might say that this is alluded to in the content of the reward and the blessings that are delineated. It's not only that in the terminology of the brachas, it's underscored how they are all coming from Hashem. I will make you into a great nation. Not you will become a great nation. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great. And it's not said in the passive, in the reflexive, you'll become a great nation. So it's not just that Hashem is underscoring, I am going to do this. But also that what's being underscored is the greatness, is the enormity is otherworldly enormity. Amitas inyan hagadlus kayemes rak v'chek haboyrei. Because true greatness exists only in the bosom of God. It only Hashem has true greatness. Ki b'nivra mitzat atzmam ein gadlus amitis. Because people on their own don't have true greatness. V'agadlus sheyeshna b'bria v'eschal l'goy gadol v'agadlus shemecha ba al yidei dveikus b'boyrei. Any greatness that a creation has comes only through cleaving to the Creator. And the same theme can be seen in the rest of the terminology of the blessings. Hamivatim es his achdus Avram and HaKadosh Baruch Hu lemetzius achas. They all express this unity of Avram with Hashem until they become one existence. Demitam zeh veheyei bracha. And for this reason, Hashem says to Avram, you will become a blessing. Keperish Rashi, like Rashi told us on those words, Habrachos nisunes biyadcha ad achshav hayu biyadi umeachshav ata tevarach es asher tachbitz. Avram Avinu, through cleaving onto Hashem, through this tnua, through this modality of Lech Lecha, Rashi explains, what does it mean you will become a blessing? Hashem says, until now, I was the curator or the custodian of blessings, and now it's going to be in your hands. You're going to be able to bless other people. And even more than this, those that bless you will be blessed. Those that curse you will be cursed. That means that blessing Avram brings blessing to the one who blesses Avram from God, and the opposite is true as well. And I mean, just to say, like, the evangelical Christians, they actually take this verse to heart. And halavai, that we should believe it like they do. And it's the reason why the U.S. Congress gives copious funds to Israel on a Shemitah year. And they bring buses and buses to Israel and a tremendous amount of money. It's all because of this pasuk. And through the service in this above taught way, through this being the case in each of our private service of Hashem, Yiskayim ela aretz asher areka kipshutai, we will see the fruition of the bracha, that we will come to the land that Hashem will show us. Literally, HaKadosh Baruch Hu yavi es b'nei Yisrael le'eretz Yisrael. Hashem will bring b'nei Yisrael to Eretz Yisrael. V'sham yimtzu gadlus u'shleimas ha'aretz, and there will be greatness for the Jews, and there will be the shleimas ha'aretz. The land will be complete. Ad asher gam yarchiv Hashem lekecha es gvulcha, until we'll see the fruition of the bracha that comes with Mashiach's time, where we'll not only have the land of the 7 nations, but also the additional 3 lands of the other 3 nations, Af, Aretz, Kini, Knizi, V'Kadmoni, V'yesh Leimar, Shagam, Oisan, Kfar, Nasan, Kadosh Baruch Hu B'yad Avram. And we might say that even those territories were already given to Avram, Sherei Bris Achas Hoysal Kol Esar Haratzis. Because the truth is that Hashem made a covenant with Avram on all 10 of those nations, of those territories. B'geula, and this will all come to fruition. B'geula hamitis v'hashlema aydei Mashiach tzidkenu b'mheira v'yameinu mamash, with the true and complete redemption through to the righteous Mashiach, may be speedily in our moments, literally. Okay, I'm going to open the chat. So we'll look at the footnote 50. Tippa's question is that a change that happened? The bracha went from Hashem to Avram initially, and now Avram has power to bless. I believe so. I believe that this is also the beginning of the power of tzaddikim in general to bless. That Hashem imparted to Avram, and then through the generations to the tzaddikim Yisod Olam, that they have the ability to bless.
I can't help but think back to the resistance that the Rebbe had or faced.
Of the third paragraph. It's like the beginning of the third paragraph in Seif Hey, in the fifth section of the Sikha. So the Rebbe says, Kol shar ha'iluyim v'hapratim b'avedasai einam ela bigdare hanivra. The main thing that the Rebbe wants to explain is that all of this is important, the learning, the kavanas, the Avos Hashem, the Yiras Hashem, but all of them, saf kol saf, are still going to remain circumscribed within the parameters of the human being, no matter how exalted the human being. So if you look at the footnote, Hainu hakaras Hashem, ba'avas Hashem, v'yira, mitzad atzmai beli inyan hamitzvah shebehen. In other words, all of the Elohim, all of the pratim, what does this mean? The Rebbe says, the recognition of Hashem, the avas Hashem, the yiras Hashem, but all of this without the mitzvah all still remains trapped like it is, limited in how far a person can be. Like it was with Avram before he had this commandment. But from the fact that Hashem commanded him, Ein erech v'dimyan klal bein ha'aretz v'amshachas orin zebaruch hu pnimis tzoni's baruch ha'me'iru melubeshes b'mitzvos ma'asiyas mamish legabi ha'arev v'amshachas orin zebaruch ha'me'iru melubeshes b'kavanas ha'mitzvos ma'asiyas she'adam miskavein b'asiyasan kedei ledavka b'yis baruch aydei kiyum ritzonish hu ritzonim echad. You can't compare the irradiation and the bringing down of the infinite light, which comes from the innermost desire of Hashem that irradiates and is vested in practical mitzvahs. You can't compare that to the light of Hashem that's drawn down and that irradiates and is vested in the kavanah of mitzvahs.
But also there's another inyan about what Sipa mentioned, that when you Nigla Torah basically teaches us what to do, what not to do. Chassidus is actually the one that talks about who we are. It talks about the neshama. It talks about who we are. So it's not in any way a contradiction. On the contrary, Chassidus reveals that the essence of a Jew is who he is. That's his essence.
Let's go further.